Hi, so we just got back from our trip to Alberta, and we just wanted to tell you a little bit about what happened out there. It is quite the story, actually. So the reason we left originally, some people might not have understood what we were hoping to achieve. What we were wanting to do is go out to Alberta to actually take a look at the different towns and cities that we had already investigated on the internet. And then we decided that we needed to see what things really looked like on the ground, start talking to some people who are actually in the communities, and try and get a feel for where God really wants us to be in a little bit more than a year.
Pretty much, yeah. So when we packed up, we left on March the 20th, which was a Friday, and we reached Chilliwack by about 4 o'clock, which was pretty good. And then, we chugged along into Kamloops and to take the canoe.
We really did chug into Kamloops, about 5 kilometers outside of Kamloops, just at the top of the hill. All of a sudden the engine started making these shuddering type noises. It felt like the transmission was going, really, and it felt like we had no control over the vehicle. So we kind of puttered into the first hotel parking lot we could find and set the kids up for the night, because we weren't really sure at that stage if it was a transmission issue. That could be thousands of dollars. But it seemed like God was already at work before us. We managed to find a lube shop literally a half an hour before it closed. And we were the last vehicle to go through. And all of a sudden the van was running like a top, I guess. I hit the road, and all of a sudden we found ourselves thinking that we were going to be delayed for days, and discovering that we're actually, again, ahead of schedule.
And found ourselves stuck on the highway waiting for avalanche blasting, which the kids at first thought was really interesting, and then they got really concerned when they actually could hear all the blasting in the distance, and they wanted to know how close we were, and if it's dangerous, and are we safe, and are we going to die, and all that kind of kid worry stuff. But really, it was fascinating seeing all the trucks all parked on the highway and knowing it's a piece of highway that we'll probably never walk on again.
And the kids got to play on the highway, which is something you never get to do.
But we got back on the road an hour and a half later, which was earlier than they actually had estimated it was going to take.
And again, we were ahead of schedule. We actually got to Red Deer and dropped all the kids and the dog off on time. And the next day, at about noon, we left Red Deer and started our 4.5-hour drive to Medicine Hat. So we arrived at Medicine Hat, and we were actually had arranged to stay with Jason and Lee Wilkes, who are church planters up from the United States, to plant a church there. They actually just launched their church in January, and they've actually got quite the story just to themselves. But they were thrilled to have us there, and they prayed with us, and we had a really good time just for getting to know them and learning more about that community. But before we knew it, it was the next morning, and we took a quick tour of the town after a bite of Tim's, and then hit the road to go to Lethbridge.
Lethbridge is only about 2 hours away from Medicine Hat, so it wasn't that long of a drive. But Lethbridge was interesting. We stayed with Barry's family.
We had a chance to really get to know that community a little bit more as well, in spite of the chilly weather. So from there, again, we hit the road the next day around noon. We were originally planning to just look at Okotoks, but when we hit High River, we thought we'll just nip in there and take a look.
But of course, High River didn't really have a church in it this time.
From there, we drove just about 10 minutes up the road to Okotoks, which is a much more suburban type of town. So we kept on going, spent the night in Calgary with my cousins. We drove up the highway from Calgary to Spruce Grove directly. And we got to kind of go through all the neighborhoods there. Then we shot up the highway again. 5 minutes up the highway was Stony Plain, which probably a little bit of equivalent to the High River down in Calgary. When we thought about the towns that we'd seen, we realized that the very first community that we looked at was actually the community that had our hearts. And we're looking at Medicine Hat. We know that the community obviously is big enough, and it certainly has a fair amount of need there, just expressed by the fact that the church planters that we met there, Jason and Lee, were really good about explaining all the different challenges there. So we're excited to be part of that. We do need people to come on side as prayer partners. Certainly we believe in the power of prayer, and we certainly do want to start looking at what kind of a team is going to take shape and how we want to go about reaching this community. We already have some ideas. But obviously we want to work at this as a team and not just by ourselves.
So thanks again for all your support and prayers during our journey out to Alberta, and we just are excited to watch how God's plan is going to unfold the rest of the way here. Thanks again. God bless.